Hi, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we have a new life story. My name is Evelyn Blake. I'm 32 years old, an interior designer living in San Diego. And 3 years ago, my world collapsed in one unforgettable evening because my sister betrayed me with the man I thought I would marry. I can still remember the scent in the air that night. Citrus blossoms from the backyard, grilled nectarines from the open kitchen, a bottle of red wine breathing on the counter. It was supposed to be the eve of my engagement celebration. My parents' home in Northern California buzzed with warmth and celebration. Lights strung through the trees, music playing faintly under laughter and clinking glasses. I drifted through it all with that dreamy feeling you only get in those rare moments when everything feels aligned. It was my night, our night. Gabriel and I had spent nearly 4 years building a quiet, thoughtful relationship. He was the calm in every storm, steady, patient, the kind of person who paid attention to small things. I believed in him. I believed in us. Until the moment everything cracked. I'd gone inside to get a sweater. It was dusk, that soft blue hour where time feels suspended. The hallway was hushed. I remember the warmth of the wooden floor under my feet and the distant clink of silverware. Then I heard them, two voices, low, close. One of them let out a small, breathy laugh. I moved toward the den slowly, the unease in my stomach nodding before my brain could even register why. And then I saw them. Gabriel and my sister, Leela, his hand on her lower back, her fingers grazing his wrist. Frozen, intimate, wrong. They didn't see me at first. And in that moment, everything inside me fractured. Not with noise, not with drama, but with silence so sharp it made my ears ring. I turned and left before they could notice me. I didn't confront them. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just walked out of the house and into the darkening yard, heart thudding like a warning bell, hands trembling. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. I didn't tell anyone. I smiled through photos. I toasted to my own engagement with champagne I couldn't swallow. My skin itched under every hand laid on my shoulder. I watched Leela across the garden, laughing, radiant, like nothing had happened. And Gabriel? He didn't come near me the rest of the night. 2 days later, I vanished. I left no note, no message, no answers. I broke my lease, changed my number, shut down my social media, and took the first freelance job that would get me out of state. I moved into a studio apartment in Tucson and started over. Because I couldn't breathe in the same air as their betrayal. The first few months in Tucson were a blur of heat and numbness. I threw myself into work. Design consultations, color boards, floor plans, project pitches. I took everything I could, no matter how small or mundane. I welcomed the exhaustion. It gave me an excuse not to think. I didn't unpack most of my boxes. I didn't buy curtains. I didn't even put my name on the mailbox. I lived like a ghost in my own life. It wasn't depression exactly. It was more like emotional rigor mortis. I'd frozen at the exact moment I saw Gabriel's hand on Leela's waist, and I didn't know how to thaw. Every time my phone buzzed, I braced. But they never called. Not Gabriel, not Leela, not even my parents. And the truth? That silence hurt more than any confrontation ever could. It told me everything I needed to know about what I meant to them. It meant I was disposable. So I did the only thing I could. I started pretending I didn't exist. Until one day, someone forced me to come back to life. Her name was Nia. We met at a contractor's warehouse, arguing over the last reclaimed oak beam for two separate clients. I don't know what made her notice the sadness behind my sarcasm, but she did. She said, "You look like someone who hasn't slept or smiled in 3 months." Coffee? We got coffee. Then drinks a few nights later. Then tacos. Then suddenly, I had a friend. A real one. Mia didn't ask too many questions. She didn't pry about why I flinched when I saw engagement rings or why I hesitated every time she asked about my family. She just made me laugh. And after months of holding my breath, I finally exhaled. About a year after I left, I got a text from my mother. Just one line. We miss you. No follow-up, no apology, no explanation. It felt like a pebble tossed into the Grand Canyon. Too late, too shallow. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because how do you explain that what hurts most isn't the moment of betrayal? It's the days and weeks and months afterwards when nobody comes looking for you, when nobody thinks to say, "We're sorry." Instead, I went for a walk. The sun was blistering, the Arizona sky wide and uncaring, and I let myself cry for the first time in months. Not for Gabriel, not for Leela, for myself, for the version of me that thought she was loved. I started writing again, not for anyone, just for me. Little paragraphs in notebooks, snippets of conversations I imagined having, monologues I'd never say out loud, sometimes angry, sometimes aching, but always honest. And with every page, I felt a little less hollow. I also started volunteering with a nonprofit that helped redesign transitional housing spaces for women starting over, survivors of abuse, single mothers, women fresh out of prison trying to rebuild their lives. At first, I just did it for distraction. But soon, I found myself genuinely invested. They were rebuilding more than kitchens and bathrooms. They were rebuilding hope. And being around that kind of grit and grace changed me. It reminded me that ruin isn't the end. It's the beginning of something else, something new, something honest. One day, Mia showed up at my apartment with a wide smile and said, "I'm dragging you to a dinner party, no arguments." I tried to resist. I had work. I had emails. I had a perfectly good reason to stay home and order takeout and wallow. But she gave me that look, the one that said, "You need this more than you realize." So I went. And that's where I met Rowan. He wasn't flashy. He didn't try to charm the room. He was quiet, attentive, kind. The kind of man who listened with his eyes as much as his ears. He asked me about design, about what kind of homes I like creating. I told him I liked layering, mixing old textures with modern lines. He smiled and said, "So, you like giving broken things a second life." And just like that, I felt something in me shift. Rowan didn't pursue me with intensity. He showed up with consistency. He made space. He brought coffee on long days, sent playlists when I was stressed, showed up to my nonprofit projects with a toolbox and no questions asked. And slowly, carefully, I let him in. Not because I was healed, but because for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to pretend to be. He saw the cracks and stayed anyway. Rowan and I never defined what we were. Not right away. There were no labels, no ultimatums. Just time. Quiet, uninterrupted, and healing. It was the first relationship I'd ever had where I didn't feel like I was shrinking to fit someone else's expectations. With Gabriel, I was always filtering. With Rowan, I was just there, fully present. One night, we were sitting on my tiny balcony drinking lemon tea. The lights of Tucson twinkled in the distance, and the air was finally cool after a long, brutal day. I looked at him and said, "You don't know everything about me." He didn't flinch. "You don't owe me everything." "But I want to tell you." And so I did, in pieces, carefully. The night Leela betrayed me, the moment I saw them, how I walked away and no one followed, how the silence afterward was louder than the betrayal itself. He didn't ask follow-ups. He didn't interrupt. He just listened. And when I was done, he reached for my hand and said, "You didn't deserve that. None of it." And for the first time, I believed it. Not just in my mind, in my bones. A year passed, then another. The Tucson apartment became a home. I bought throw pillows, I painted the kitchen cabinets, I got a dog named Clover who barked at mailmen and curled against my knees at night. I wasn't the same woman who had fled California with a shattered heart and a duffel bag. I had rebuilt. And not to prove anything to them, but to prove something to myself. That I could, that I would, that the story didn't end where they left me. It was just the end of their chapter in it. Then came the email. A name I hadn't seen in nearly 3 years. Leela. The subject line was blank. The message was short. Mom's turning 60. We're planning a dinner. You don't have to come, but she'd want you there. I'd like to see you too. I stared at it for 20 minutes before I moved. It was like being thrown into a memory you thought you'd buried deep enough to forget. I didn't respond right away. I didn't even know how. So I called Naya. She listened and said, "Do you want to go?" I don't know. That's not a no. I'm not sure I'm ready. Maybe, or maybe you're more ready than you think. I hung up and stared at the ceiling for a long time. Then I turned to Rowan. He didn't say anything, just waited. And when I asked, "Would you come with me?" he nodded, without hesitation. And that's how I knew I could handle going back, because I wasn't going alone. The house was exactly the same. Same porch swing, same rose bushes, same smell of lemon oil and wood polish. But I wasn't the same. I wore a soft navy dress and heels I didn't hate. My hair was longer, my posture straighter, my smile quieter, but more real. Rowan walked beside me, calm and grounded. My mother opened the door. Her face changed when she saw me. I saw the shock, then something softer. Maybe hope. She didn't cry. Neither did I. She just said, "You look beautiful," and pulled me into a hug that didn't ask for anything. Inside, the house was full of people I barely recognized. Cousins, neighbors, old friends of my parents. But I only saw one face. Leela. She stood near the kitchen, a glass of wine in hand, frozen mid-step. Gabriel wasn't there. She walked toward me slowly. And for the first time in years, I looked at her without flinching. She stopped a few feet away. "She didn't expect you to come," she said. I almost didn't. Silence. Then she said, "You look different." "I am." She nodded, her eyes flicking briefly to Rowan, who stood just behind me. Then she said, "He's handsome. He's kind." That was all I said, because that was all that needed to be said. She blinked quickly, as if fighting something she didn't want me to see. Regret? Guilt? Loss? I didn't care. I wasn't here for that. I was here for me. Dinner passed in a surreal blur. Conversations drifted around me, updates about jobs, vacations, neighborhood drama. I answered politely when spoken to, smiled when appropriate, but my attention remained focused. Not on Lila, not on the past, on my own presence. How grounded I felt in my own skin. How for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for someone else to ruin the moment. My mother kept sneaking glances at me. Her expression carried the weight of so many unspoken things. I could feel the apologies in her eyes, even if the words never came. And that was okay. Some apologies arrive as actions, as gestures, as second chances to simply be seen. When dessert was served, some overly sweet cake that none of us touched, I slipped out onto the back patio for air. The night was warm. The same wind chimes still hung from the eaves. For a moment, I let myself remember being 17 again, sitting on that step with a journal in my lap, dreaming of a future I didn't yet know how to reach. Footsteps approached behind me. Rowan. He didn't say anything, just handed me a glass of water and sat beside me. After a long silence, I said, 3 years ago, I walked out of this house thinking I might never come back. And now? I looked around. It's just a house. He smiled. That's progress. And it was. Because it meant I no longer saw myself as the girl who had been betrayed in it. I was someone else now. Someone stronger. Someone whole. Later that night, Lila caught me just as I was heading for the door. The guest had left. My mother was in the kitchen, laughing softly with Rowan over some story he was telling. The house was quiet in that post-event way that feels both intimate and hollow. I'm not gonna beg, Lila said. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Then don't, I replied. I think about that night every day. I turned to her. Why did you do it? She hesitated. Then, because he made me feel wanted. And I was stupid enough to think that meant something. That excuse is a lot lighter than what you did. She winced. I know. We stood there for a long moment. There was no noise, no shouting, no dramatic reconciliation. Just two women who shared blood, but not the same kind of soul. I hope you're happy, she finally whispered. I am, I said, and I meant it. Her eyes welled, but she didn't let the tears fall. She stepped back, nodded once, and disappeared down the hallway. That was the last time we spoke. Rowan and I flew back to Tucson the next morning. When the plane lifted off, I looked down at the grid of streets and houses shrinking beneath us, and I smiled. Not because it was over, because I had outgrown it. The months that followed were quiet and beautiful. My nonprofit project received a small grant. I got to design a shelter from the ground up, creating something that wasn't just functional. It was comforting, affirming, human. Rowan and I adopted a second dog, a lopsided mutt named Peanut, who instantly ruled the apartment. And one night, while we were cooking dinner and dancing barefoot in the kitchen to some old soul record, he said, You never told me what you dream about now. I paused, wiping flour from my hands. I used to dream of proving them wrong. And now? I looked around at the chipped tile, the plants thriving in the sunlight, the love I never thought I'd find. Now, I don't think about them at all. He smiled. That's the dream. And it was. Not revenge, not justice. Peace.